I guess Pretzelman 945 here. Welcome back to another video. In today's video, I have a good old-fashioned top 10 list, which I haven't done in a minute. And this list is a idea which also came from my comments. One of like three of those, I think. Um, and this is my top 10 most underrated anime. Now, what do I mean when I say underrated? When I say underrated in the context of this list, it means entirely um animes that I, me as a person, only me, don't hear talked about very much, that I feel like could be talked about and blazed more and rated higher and whatever term that you want to use. Um this is also based on how much I like the shows myself, but it is not as significant of a factor in this ranking compared to how underrated I think it is, like how much I don't hear it talked about. Um, so with that, let's get into the list. And number 10 is Dungeon Meshi. Um, I don't know. I think this is a show I've talked about on my channel before. I think I was in my massive anime ranking from last year, which is outdated almost immediately after I made the video. Um uh I love Dungeon Meshi because it is an extremely simple premise. Um, just like cooking in a dungeon, and there is so much charm to that simple concept, and yet underneath all of it, there is like crazy good world building with like the sort of nature of the dungeon and how it relates to different races. And I think that all of the characters are just fantastic in Dungeon Meshi, and I feel like it should be mentioned more and brought up more. So, at number 9 is Jormungand, and Jormungand, in my opinion, is a better version of Black Lagoon in every possible way. Because it has all of the same fun and absurd antics of like a group of like a mercenary group traveling around doing absolutely ridiculous shit and getting into completely ridiculous scenarios. With Jormungand, you have even more characters that are just as memorable and just as funny. And I like the MC of Jormungand a lot better. He's like a little kid teenager type character who feels like he goes through a really good arc, unlike Rock and Black Lagoon, who undergoes absolutely no change at all from the beginning of the show to the end, which is like my biggest issue with Black Lagoon. But also Jormungand to me, like Jormungand has this overarching plot, which is revealed in the end, which is like completely insane, and yet it feels like it worked very well. It's executed extremely well, and this entire show was just such an absolute blast that I don't feel like I hear anyone talk about really. Um, And number 7 is Sonda. This was my favorite hidden gem of the fall season of 2025, and one of my favorite underrated gems from last year. And the reason why this one in particular is on this list compared to several other animes which I could have put here from last year that I watched seasonally that I think also deserve the spot is that Sanda, I felt like I didn't hear anyone talk about this show. But Sanda has like one of the most interesting premises to any anime I've ever seen. Like the idea of this kid that becomes this adult Santa Claus in a world in like a futuristic dystopian version of Japan where like Santa and Christmas is banned is just like a completely ridiculous concept, and the animation by Science Saru was just fucking incredible. There were a lot of really interesting characters, and the fact that like Santa had different like forms that made him more powerful. And this was only like 12 episodes. Like I really hope that there is like more Sanda, because I thought it was just a really cool go with just such a unique premise that I would be quite excited to see where it would go in a season two, and I really hope that there is one. And number six is Afro Samurai, and this anime is just absolutely like built for me because it is only 5 episodes. It's extremely digestible to watch. Um, it has a complete plot in those 5 episodes, and within that, also a extremely captivating revenge arc that I think is done excellently. The action animation is awesome considering this is a show from like 2007, I think, if I remember correctly. Could be 2006. Um, uh, the action animation for it being like 19 or 20 years old is just incredible to me. Um, and of course, the main appeal is that Samuel L. Jackson voices the main character, and he is completely. And he also produced the entire thing, and the entire concept is just supremely fucking awesome, and I love it, and I feel like it should be talked about more. And number five is Odd Taxi, which I made a video on earlier this year. When did I watch Odd Taxi? When was that this year? Was in February. Okay, okay. Um, so Odd Taxi, um, was completely not what I expected at all. Like, I full on expected it to just be about a guy driving interesting people around in his taxi and hearing their stories. And for like the first 3 episodes, that is exactly what it is, and then it turns into this insane organized crime show, which is just not what I was expecting at all. But it just worked because like the crime antics are just extremely suspenseful and entertaining, and like at the very end the entire concept and twist of it being animals related was because of like the delusions of Otokawa, um and in like his ultimate sort of just struggle with um this mental delusion at the very end was just fucking brilliant to me, and I loved Odd Taxi. I really think it deserves more love than I have heard it given. Um and number four is Devilman Crybaby. I have talked about Devilman Crybaby a lot on this channel, I think. Um Rilo and Akira have one of my favorite dynamics in fiction, which I talk about glowingly in my top 10 video of that I made a few months ago. Um, the animation is this is like what made me discover Science Sorrow and fall in love with their work, because this show has some of the best and most insane animation of any anime I have ever seen. Um, and and like it just the way that the entire scope of the story changes in just 10 episodes is absolutely mind blowing to me. I think it is absolutely brilliant. And I really, really feel like this is a case where it is actually underrated score wise. Like I think the mouse score for this show is way too low, and I think that this show deserves a lot more appreciation. And number three is the 12 Kingdoms. This is like the most unique isekai I have ever seen, and it is not even close. Um, the concept behind this and the sheer like world building behind it is just it is absolutely just bonkers how full of a world and how in depth it is on every level. It's easily got some of the best world building in any anime I have ever seen. Um, Although I don't know exactly where it would rank because I think it's been like 3 years or something like that, maybe 2 years since I last did that particular list. Um, yeah, I think it was 2 years ago, which is still a while ago, so I can't remember what the list was. But um, every aspect of the world building is so just methodically thought out, and um I don't remember the main character's name because it has been like a year and a half since I watched the show. But I found the main character and her arc, as she like slowly becomes a leader to just be incredibly fascinating. And um this show like is so like the gap between like 4 and 3 here is a drastic jump for me because um I feel like I have seen barely anyone ever discuss this show. Um and to be honest, the only reason this is not number one on this list, because this is definitely, in my opinion, the least talked about anime on this entire list that I have heard. Um, the only reason why this is not number one on my list is because numbers two and one are animes that rank significantly higher for me, and because I love them so much more, that is why I think that they are more underrated. Um, and those top two are number two is Kill la Kill. Um, Kill la Kill is an anime original, and not only does it also have some of the most insane and awesome animation of any anime I have ever seen, it is also like one of the hypest animes I have ever seen, and it also has a completely insane story with fantastic cast of female characters. It is also like one of the most ridiculous and hilarious animes I have ever seen. It is such a unique, wild, hype, just insane experience of an anime that I don't feel like gets nearly enough love. Um, but I don't think it deserves as much love as the number one spot on this list, which is Pluto. Pluto is my 12th favorite anime, and even though it is the weakest of the Naoki Urasawa works that I have consumed thus far, it is still an absolute masterpiece. This is the anime that I would tell people to watch first to get into Naoki Urasawa stuff. Because of the fact that Monster is quite a bit slower in 20th Century Boys, depressingly still doesn't have an anime adaptation, even though I wish for that every day. Um, and the reason why I say that is because, well, not only do I think that, um, this is a faster pace, um, or a Naoki Urasawa story, but also like the way that it was made was like 8 hour long episodes, which um this is the reason why I would recommend it to a lot of new anime fans actually, because of the fact that like a lot of other Netflix shows follow this sort of 1 hour episode format of like limited series type thing. And there are very few other animes that actually do this. Like, the only other one that comes to mind for me is Hellsing Ultimate. Um, and that's a much older show, which is not as easy to recommend to people. Um, but Pluto is just a masterpiece of a story. It is such a interesting like sci-fi world, and it has like an absolutely enthralling mystery and just fantastic characters. Um, and it also has the best first episode of any anime I have ever seen, which I've talked about multiple times on this video. I've even made my own version of that list, my top 10 favorite anime first episodes, which you can go watch if you want. I kind of spoiled the number one spot, but it's worth it because it is genuinely true. Um, and in comparison to other Naoki Urasawa works in particular, like I have definitely heard Monster and 20th Century Boys get their much deserved flowers, but I don't feel like, even among people that appreciate Naoki Urasawa works, that Pluto gets enough appreciation. So for that reason, I consider it the most underrated anime that I have ever seen. But this has been my top 10 most underrated anime. Let me know in the comments what you think of my list. What is your most underrated anime, and what do you define as an underrated anime as well? But for now, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you later. Bye bye.